It's time to revise the 1987 Oscars. These are movies from 1986. You can check out this website for the Oscar eligible movies. My rules for this are I go by the eligibility, what the voters had during this year, what the list of movies that they voted from. But I'm very tempted to break my rules for this because there are a couple of not eligible movies that I think should definitely be considered here. Let's first take a look at what won and what was nominated. Platoon by Oliver Stone is the winner, Vietnam War movie, and a bunch of movies you may not have heard of. I think a lot of viewers might not have from this channel. Children of a Lesser God, romantic drama starring William Hurt and Marlee Matlin, about a teacher going to a deaf school. Hannah and Her Sisters is a Woody Allen movie. The Mission is a big picture, early American movie set in South America. Robert De Niro, Jeremy Irons, about Catholic Jesuits. And A Room with a View. So these movies are typical of Oscars at this time. They are dramatic, they're sentimental, not less so than other previous years, but they have a lot of drama, a lot of tragedy, absolutely no comedy here whatsoever, except for probably a few snarky and funny one-liners in Woody Allen. Best Director, pretty much the same. It almost always usually is, at least in the 1980s. They only subbed out Children of a Lesser God's director for David Lynch's Blue Velvet. That movie's probably too punk, too disturbing, too weird for Best Picture, but they did put Lynch in here as Best Director. Now, as usual, I disagree pretty strongly with this, even though I do like Oliver Stone and Platoon quite a bit. So I'm going to sub these out and give you my draft of nominees. I went through so many movies in this year, looking at a lot of them, including those on the Criterion Channel list. And here are my draft of nominees, including some worth mentioning that aren't on my top tier, but nevertheless I want to mention. This is a very good, worth mentioning list, frankly, but there are a lot of my personal choices. Pretty in Pink, Hoosiers, even maybe Children of a Lesser God nowadays, The Mosquito Coast for sure. A lot of people might not like these movies, but Vagabond is a really famous Agnes Varda movie in the top 50 in the Sight and Sound poll by the British Film Institute. But look at that draft of nominees, and one thing I'm struck by is how dark and disturbing so many of these movies are, even in the worth mentioning list. Most of these are very disturbing. Showa, the Holocaust documentary, might typify this. Round Midnight is a very sad, wonderful looking jazz movie starring Dexter Gordon, a jazz great. Mona Lisa's disturbing. Manhunter by Michael Mann is dark and disturbing, about serial killers. The Fly is about a guy turning into a fly. Blue Velvet, of course. Aliens. Frankly, the only really kind of funny movie here is my dry sense of humor. Aki Kaurismäki's Shadows in Paradise, the Finnish director. I think this is one of his first movies, first 3 or 4 features. Really good movie. You can find it on the Criterion Channel. I don't know why all these movies are dark and disturbing. Maybe it's they're just coming together in this year, because I think the next year it's a better and lighter fare. I know that for sure in 1988, the 1988 Oscars. I want to talk about what's not eligible, and the 2 candidates here, Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky, the feature he made after Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. I really love this movie. I think it's fantastic looking. Pixar loves it. John Lasseter loves it. They imitated it and to great effect in some of their movies. But it's a great looking movie. Wonderful story. I really enjoy this movie. I can't recommend it enough. The other one is the very slow but ponderous, philosophical, and I think it's an outstanding movie, The Sacrifice by Andrei Tarkovsky, who was dying while making it. His last feature film, Russian director, going to Sweden, imitating to some degree one of his favorite movie makers, Ingmar Bergman, making sort of another Bergman movie, or an homage to Bergman, but it's way more than that. It's a science fiction movie about the end of the world, Cold War, World War III stuff. This movie is super, super slow. However, a lot of people love Stalker. That's a movie I don't like so much. I made a video on it. I prefer The Sacrifice's slowness to Stalker, but has very similar things going on in it. So if you like the Stalker or other Tarkovsky movies, this one might be for you. I want to just say there's some excellent direction in this. Cronenberg's The Fly, outstanding. David Byrne, the musician from Talking Heads, True Stories, is so wonderfully photographed. Cinematography here is amazing. Get the updated digital 4K version, whatever it is, on Criterion Channel. It looks outstanding. And one of my favorite movies ever. Truly my favorite action thriller Aliens by James Cameron, which is a sequel, obviously, to Alien, but it's very different flavors. Sort of a Vietnam movie, sort of an anti-colonial movie, and he'd make other bigger ones, you know, in Avatar, but I like this one a lot better. I think this is generally scary. On the big screen, this movie, like The Mission, is outstanding. You guys all need a big screen to watch some of these movies on. Platoon is the same way, because they're made for a gigantic screen. I'm not talking about any TV you can buy. I mean a real movie screen. So hopefully you have access to that and you can watch some of these movies that way. All right, so which 5 movies would you boil this down to? Remember, they had 5 Oscar nominees for Best Picture, and they picked a winner out of everything that was eligible, but I included 3 not eligible here. What would you boil this down to, the 5 movies, and what would you pick as a winner? I'm going to tell you in a second, but go down in the comments box and let us know, because it's always interesting to see what you guys, great viewers of this channel, would recommend. All right, here it is, my 5 movies, and I am cheating. I don't know what to do. I feel like I should play by the rules. I've been doing that for several videos in the 80s, but I put Castle in the Sky and The Sacrifice here because I think they're 2 of the best 5 movies of this year, in my opinion, according to my worldview and my biases. And so I feel like breaking the rules here, and I am. If I were going to keep the rules, I might put Blue Velvet on here. I might put Round Midnight. I don't know. The Fly, yeah, The Fly and Blue Velvet probably would go here in place of the not eligible movies if I were to keep my rules, just so you know. And if I were to keep my rules, I'm strongly tempted to pick Aliens out of the ones that are eligible. But, out of all of these, the one I'm going to pick for winning Best Picture for the 1987 Oscars, movies from 1986, is...
And the winner is...
Andrei Tarkovsky's The Sacrifice.
Dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Breaks my heart. I love to follow rules. It's so much fun. It's easy, actually. And honestly, if I were going to pick a Best Picture winner, it would be my heart, my gut choice. It'd be Aliens, which I know would annoy a lot of people, but I just love the way that movie is, the world of that movie, the direction in it, the acting. It thrills me every time I've watched it. Watch it 15 times. It's awesome. On a big screen, go do it. But I got to give an Oscar to Tarkovsky, who probably, I don't know if he would get one in my revisionism. The Mirror might get one in the 1970s, but I'm not sure. I haven't done that decade yet. So I'm picking The Sacrifice. And the reason is this movie, as a science fiction movie, a Bergman movie, a Tarkovsky movie, a Old Testament movie, as a sort of summation of all Tarkovsky's movies. He's one of the great filmmakers ever, which means he's one of the best artists of the last 200 years. I don't see how anybody can dispute that. And here he is, a dying man. And you can kind of read this autobiographically too. There are so many aspects of this movie that make it an outstanding watch if you know what you're looking for. I think some of you might need some help getting into it, reading some kind of book, some kind of criticism, watching videos, taking a class. But if you do, this film will reward you infinitely. And I watched this movie as the 7th, I think it's the 7th movie in Tarkovsky's filmography. Watching the first 6 first and then this movie, and that just opened up all kinds of ways to see it. I originally watched this when I was probably 20, 22, 24, and it was too slow for me at that time. I didn't understand the pace of it or what it was getting at. Reading more of the Old Testament, the Abraham story, other things like that, more Russian literature, 100 other things introduced me to what this movie is, what it's about, and unveiled itself to me. I still think it's super slow. I mean, I got to be in a mood for it. But I think this is by far and away the best movie of the year, given all these other possibilities. Although second might be Castle in the Sky. It's probably Castle in the Sky and Aliens. And I do have to mention these other two. Manhunter is one of Michael Mann's best movies. I think this is an outstanding serial killer detective movie. I normally don't like those, but he does great work here. Arguably, this is better than Silence of the Lambs, which won Best Picture several years later. Same story. It might even be the same material, Silence of the Lambs. And Mona Lisa is a great movie. Bob Hoskins in it. Great crime, mob sort of movie. Up in some of the cliches of that genre. It's just a great watch. All 5 of these movies are outstanding, I think, and you can just mine this for recommendations to watch. I'm sure like 2 or 3 of these you will like. I can't guarantee everybody will like all these movies, but like 2 or 3 of these. So go watch these and tell us what you think in the comments below. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't, please subscribe to this channel and have a great day.